She was 8 months pregnant when she saw it. Her ring, the exact ring she had designed with her own hands 3 years ago. The ring her husband swore could never be made. It was on another woman's finger. Sloane Mercer stood at the jewelry counter, wearing the diamond that should have belonged to Margot, smiling, confident, like she had already won. And maybe she had, because what Margot discovered next would shatter everything she believed about her marriage. The affair did not start 6 months ago. It started before her husband ever said hello to her, before their first date, before their wedding vows. She was never the love story. She was the business deal. But Sloane made one fatal mistake. She forgot who Margot's family was. The Prescotts did not make scenes. They did not scream or cry or beg. They simply arrived. They simply existed. And when they walked into that gala, 400 witnesses watched as the mistress's perfect plan crumbled to dust. Tonight, you will hear the full story. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment of heartbreak, and the powerful twist that no one saw coming. This is the story of a woman who lost everything and found herself, lesson and value. This is more than entertainment. This is a reminder that your worth is never defined by someone who failed to see it, that silence is not weakness, that walking away is not losing, and that sometimes the people who try to break you accidentally show you exactly how strong you have always been. If you have ever felt invisible in your own relationship, if you have ever wondered whether you were crazy for trusting your instincts, if you have ever needed proof that starting over is possible at any age, this story is for you. Meaning of the story. The mistress thought she won because she took the husband, but she only took a man who was never capable of real love. The true victory was never about revenge. It was about reclamation. Margot did not destroy Preston. She simply stopped protecting him. She stopped making herself small. She stopped apologizing for his failures. And in doing so, she remembered who she was before he convinced her to forget. This story teaches us that the prison door is often unlocked. We are sometimes our own wardens. And freedom begins the moment we choose to walk through. That is my ring. The words echoed in Margot's mind as she stood frozen in the doorway of Bellamy's bridal boutique. Her hand gripped the doorframe. Her heart pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird. She had come here for something simple. A custom necklace she had ordered 3 months ago. A gift to herself for surviving this pregnancy, mostly alone, while Preston traveled for work. That was what he called it. Work. The woman at the jewelry counter turned around. Sloane Mercer. Margot recognized her immediately. She had seen her at company events, at holiday parties, at the Whitmore wedding last spring, where Preston had introduced her as a colleague from the marketing division. But it was not Sloane's face that made Margot's blood turn to ice. It was her hand. On Sloane's left ring finger sat a rose-cut diamond in an Art Deco setting, the exact design Margot had sketched herself 3 years ago. The design she had shown Preston with such excitement. The design he had taken to their jeweler with promises to surprise her for their anniversary. The ring, he said, could not be replicated. The ring, he said, was impossible to make. That ring was on another woman's finger. The boutique smelled of gardenias. The scent was thick and cloying. It coated the back of Margot's throat like syrup. The air conditioning raised goosebumps on her bare arms. Classical music played from hidden speakers. Vivaldi, the Four Seasons, spring. Everything felt too bright, too sharp, too real. Sloane's expression shifted. Surprise first, then calculation. Then a smile that stretched across her face without reaching her eyes. Margot. She said the name like it tasted bitter. I did not expect to see you here. Should you not be resting? In your condition, she gestured vaguely toward Margot's belly. 8 months pregnant. The bump was impossible to hide now. Margot had stopped trying. The boutique attendant appeared beside them. She was young, eager, oblivious to the tension crackling through the air like static electricity before a storm. Is this not the most stunning engagement ring? The attendant gushed over Sloane's hand. The setting is so unique. I have never seen anything like it. Your fiancé must have exquisite taste. Sloane did not correct her. Instead, she angled her hand so the light caught the diamond. The stone sparkled. It threw tiny rainbows across the glass display case. He does? Sloane's voice was silk over steel. He knows exactly what I deserve. Margot did what women do when their world is cracking apart at the seams. She smiled. She kept smiling. Her cheeks ached from the effort. Her jaw hurt from clenching her teeth behind her lips. I should go. Margot heard herself say the words from somewhere far away. I just remembered I have an appointment. She did not remember leaving the boutique. She did not remember walking to her car. She did not remember starting the engine or pulling out of the parking lot. She only remembered the smile, holding it in place like armor, like a mask, like the only thing standing between her and complete collapse. 20 minutes later, she found herself at the overlook on Hillcrest Drive, the place where Preston had proposed 4 years ago, the place where he had gotten down on one knee and promised her forever. She parked the car. She turned off the engine. She stared at her own engagement ring, the substitute. That was what it was. She understood that now. Preston had given her this ring because the real one was already on someone else's finger. She had been wearing the consolation prize for 3 years. Her phone buzzed in her purse. Preston's name lit up the screen. Running late tonight. Don't wait up. Margot did not respond. She sat in the car as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon. Orange and pink and purple streaked across the sky like watercolors bleeding into each other. The leather seat creaked beneath her as she shifted her weight. Her daughter kicked against her palm. Once, twice, 3 times. The baby was restless. Margot understood the feeling. She looked at her ring again. The diamond was beautiful. It had always been beautiful, but it was not the ring she had designed. It was not the ring Preston had promised her. It was not her ring at all. The tears came then, silent at first, just a burning behind her eyes, and a tightness in her throat. Then the first one spilled over, then another. Then she was sobbing, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body and made the baby kick harder in protest. She cried until her eyes were swollen, until her throat was raw, until the sun had disappeared completely and the streetlights flickered on around her. Then she wiped her face. She started the car. She drove home to the house she shared with her husband, the husband who had given away her ring, the husband who was not coming home tonight, the husband who was probably with her right now, with Sloane, with the woman wearing the diamond that should have been Margot's. But the ring was only the beginning of what Sloane had taken. Margot just did not know it yet. The grandfather clock in the hallway struck 11:30 when Preston finally came through the front door. Margot was sitting in the living room. She had not turned on the lights. She had not taken off her coat. She had been sitting in the dark for 3 hours, waiting. The click of Preston's shoes on the hardwood floor, the rustle of his jacket as he hung it in the closet, the clink of his keys in the ceramic bowl by the door. Familiar sounds, domestic sounds, sounds that had once made her feel safe. Now they made her stomach turn. Preston walked into the living room and stopped short. His silhouette was backlit by the hallway light. She could not see his face clearly, but she could hear the surprise in his voice. Margot. He said her name carefully. Why are you sitting in the dark? She did not answer immediately. She let the silence stretch between them like a rubber band pulled too tight. I saw Sloane today. Her voice was calm, steady. She was proud of that. At Bellamy's boutique, Preston was quiet for a moment, then he reached for the lamp on the side table. Light flooded the room. Margot blinked against the sudden brightness. Preston's face was carefully blank. That expression she had seen so many times before. The one that gave nothing away. Oh. He loosened his tie. I did not know she shopped there. She was wearing a ring. Margot pressed on. An engagement ring. My engagement ring. The one I designed. The one you said could not be made. Preston sighed. It was the kind of sigh that a parent might give a child who had said something foolish, patient, condescending. Margot. He walked toward her. His footsteps were slow, measured. You are 8 months pregnant. Your hormones are doing all sorts of things to your perception right now. You probably saw a ring that looked similar, and your mind filled in the rest. It was not similar. Margot's voice stayed steady. It was identical. The rose cut, the Art Deco setting, the mill-grain details, every single element I designed. Preston sat down on the arm of the couch, not next to her, above her, looking down. Sweetheart. His voice dripped with false concern. I think you are exhausted. You have not been sleeping well. The pregnancy is hard on your body. Maybe you saw something that was not there. I know what I saw. Do you? He tilted his head. Because what you are describing sounds impossible. You designed that ring. I took it to the jeweler. He said it could not be made with the specifications you wanted. So I got you something else, something beautiful, something you have worn every day for 3 years. His hand reached for hers. His fingers were warm as they closed around her wrist. Sloane is a colleague, nothing more. Maybe she has similar taste in jewelry. Maybe it is a coincidence, but accusing me of what? Giving away your ring design. Having an affair. He shook his head slowly. Do you hear how that sounds? Margot wanted to believe him. That was the worst part. Some desperate corner of her heart wanted to accept his explanation, wanted to chalk it up to pregnancy brain and exhaustion and paranoia. Because the alternative was too painful to consider. Maybe you are right. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Maybe I am just tired. Preston smiled. There it is. He kissed her forehead. His lips were cool against her skin. Get some sleep. Things will look different in the morning. He helped her up from the couch. He walked her to the bedroom. He tucked her into bed like she was a child. Then he went back downstairs. To make a phone call, he said. Work stuff. Margot lay in the darkness and listened to the muffled sound of his voice through the floor. She could not hear the words, just the rhythm, the rising and falling, the occasional laugh. She thought about the ring. She thought about Sloane's smile. She thought about all the business trips and late nights and missed dinners. Am I crazy? The question circled in her mind like a vulture over carrion. Maybe I am imagining things. Maybe pregnancy really has affected my perception. Maybe I am turning into one of those jealous wives who sees threats everywhere. But even as she tried to convince herself, she felt the truth settling into her bones like cold. She was not crazy. She knew what she had seen. At 2:17 in the morning, Margot slipped out of bed. Preston was snoring beside her, deep rhythmic breaths that meant he was truly asleep. She crept down the stairs. Each step felt like a betrayal. Each creak of the floorboards made her heart pound. Preston's laptop sat on his desk in the study. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. He had forgotten to close it. Margot knew his password. Their wedding anniversary. How romantic. His email was clean. His messages were clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that took effort. The kind of clean that meant someone had something to hide. She searched for a few more minutes, looking through folders, checking deleted items, finding nothing. Then she noticed the second browser tab, a different email account, one she had never seen before, linked to a phone number she did not recognize. Her hands trembled as she clicked on it. The inbox loaded. Hundreds of emails, thousands of emails, all between Preston and Sloane. Margot scrolled to the beginning, to the very first message. The date made her blood run cold. 4 years ago, 1 week before the Hampton charity auction, 1 week before the night she thought she had met Preston by accident, the night she thought had changed her life. From Preston. I found her, Harrison Prescott's daughter. This is it. The Prescott shipping connections would triple our import capacity. She is pretty enough. This should not take long. From Sloane. Do not fall for your mark, darling. Remember, I am the endgame. She is just the business deal. Margot read the words 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Each time they meant the same thing. I am not crazy. I know what I saw. Her entire marriage was a lie. The emails went back further than she could have imagined. Margot sat at Preston's desk until dawn, reading message after message, watching the story of her marriage unfold in reverse. The screen cast blue light across her face. The chair creaked beneath her weight. Her back ached from hunching forward. Her eyes burned from staring at the screen without blinking. But she could not stop. Each email revealed another piece of the puzzle, another fragment of the truth she had been too blind to see. Preston had targeted her from the beginning. He had researched her family, their shipping empire, their political connections, their real estate holdings. He had learned her favorite coffee shop, her morning running route, her volunteer schedule at the children's hospital. He had engineered their first meeting. The Hampton charity auction had not been fate. It had been strategy. Margot remembered that night so clearly. The champagne, the string quartet, the way Preston had appeared beside her at the silent auction table. You have excellent taste. He had nodded toward the painting she was examining. 19th century, French Impressionist. Most people walk right past it. She had been charmed, flattered. This handsome stranger who noticed her standing alone while everyone else networked with her father. They had talked for hours about art, about travel, about dreams and disappointments, and the pressure of family expectations. She had thought they understood each other. She had thought she had finally found someone who saw her. Not Harrison Prescott's daughter, not the Prescott shipping heiress, just Margot. What a fool she had been. From Sloane, dated 3 weeks after the auction, how is Project Prescott going? From Preston. Better than expected. She is lonely, desperate for connection outside her family bubble. Easy to manipulate. From Sloane, poor little rich girl, try not to enjoy the seduction too much. From Preston, never. You know you are the only one who matters. This is strictly business. Margot pressed her hand against her mouth to keep from screaming. Strictly business, their first kiss. Calculated, his proposal, strategic, their wedding night. Was he thinking of her the whole time? Was he counting down the minutes until he could report back to Sloane? Every memory she had treasured was now poisoned. The romantic weekend in Paris. Had he texted Sloane from the bathroom of their hotel suite, the night he held her hair back when she had food poisoning? Had he resented every moment, the morning she told him about the pregnancy, the way his smile did not quite reach his eyes? She understood that now. She understood everything. The sun rose outside the study window. Golden light crept across the floor. Birds began to sing in the garden. Margot closed the laptop. She walked through the silent house, past the kitchen, where she had cooked hundreds of dinners he never came home for, past the living room where they had hosted parties filled with his colleagues, past the nursery she had decorated alone, She stopped in the doorway of the baby's room. The walls were pale pink. The curtains were white lace. A mobile hung above the crib, stars and moons turning slowly in the early morning breeze from the open window. She had painted this room herself. Preston had been too busy with work. She had chosen every piece of furniture, every blanket, every tiny outfit hanging in the closet. She had imagined bringing their daughter home to this room. She had imagined late-night feedings in the rocking chair. She had imagined Preston beside her, exhausted but happy, a family. What a stupid dream. Margot sank into the rocking chair. The wood creaked beneath her. The cushion was soft against her aching back. She rocked. Back and forth, back and forth. The rhythm was soothing, mechanical, something she could do without thinking. The lavender diffuser on the dresser filled the air with its gentle scent. Her mother had sent it, along with the cashmere blanket draped over the crib, along with the handwritten note that Margot had not responded to, because Preston had convinced her that her family was overbearing, that they did not respect their marriage, that she needed to set boundaries. He had isolated her, cut her off from everyone who might have seen through him, and she had let him. Margot sat in the rocking chair until the sun was fully up, until she heard Preston moving around in the bedroom, until the shower started running and she knew she had a few more minutes alone with her thoughts. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby kicked. "I am so sorry." Margot whispered the words to her daughter. "I brought you into this mess. I trusted the wrong person. I believed his lies." Another kick. Stronger this time, but I am going to fix it. I promise you that, whatever it takes. She did not know how yet. She did not have a plan. All she had was the truth, and the burning need for answers. Her phone buzzed on the side table. She had left it there last night when she fell asleep, before she discovered everything. Cammie's name lit up the screen. "Need to talk. Urgent. Call me when Preston leaves." Margot stared at the message. Cammie had seen her at the boutique. Cammie had seen Sloane. Cammie had seen the ring. Whatever Cammie had to say would change everything. Preston left for work at 8:15. Margot watched from the bedroom window as his car pulled out of the driveway. She waited until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Then she picked up her phone. Cammie answered on the first ring. Thank God. Her voice was tight with worry. "I have been going out of my mind since yesterday. Margot, are you okay? What happened at the boutique? I saw you leave and I wanted to follow, but I did not know if you wanted space or—" "I know." Margot cut her off. "I know everything." Silence on the other end of the line, then a long exhale. "How much is everything?" "The affair." Margot's voice was flat, emotionless. She had cried herself dry in the nursery. Now there was nothing left but cold, hard facts. It started before we met. Before he proposed, before any of it. Our entire marriage was a business transaction. He targeted me for my family's connections. "Oh, honey." Cammie's voice broke. I suspected something was wrong. For months, I have been watching him at events, the way he looks at her, the way they stand too close, but I did not know how to tell you. I did not want to be wrong. You were not wrong. What are you going to do? Margot had been thinking about that all morning, weighing her options, running through scenarios. I need proof, something concrete, something he cannot explain away or gaslight me into doubting. "I know someone," Cammie said slowly, "a private investigator. She helped my cousin during her divorce. She is discreet, professional, and she does not take any crap from cheating husbands. Give me her number." 48 hours later, Margot sat in her kitchen with a folder in her hands. Ruth Chen was a small woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She had gray streaks in her dark hair and a handshake that could crush walnuts. She had taken Margot's case without judgment, without pity, just quiet determination. "I have to warn you," Ruth said, as she handed over the folder. "This is not easy reading. Most of what I found goes back years. He has been very careful, very methodical, I understand. But there is something else." Ruth's expression shifted. "Something you need to see before you open that folder. Something that changes the nature of this situation." "What do you mean?" Ruth pulled out a separate envelope. "This is not just an affair. This is financial fraud. He has been using your marriage to facilitate deals that cut your family out of profits they were entitled to. He has been transferring assets, creating shell companies, preparing for a divorce that he planned to initiate after securing his position." Margot's hands trembled as she opened the main folder. Hotel receipts. Dozens of them. The same hotels where Preston claimed to be at work, conferences, dates going back 3 years. Photographs. Preston and Sloane at restaurants in cities where he said he was meeting clients, walking hand in hand through airports, kissing in the back of a taxi. A lease agreement, an apartment downtown, both their names on the paperwork, credit card statements, jewelry, designer clothes, a car, all purchased for Sloane, all paid for with money that should have been Margot's. And at the very bottom of the folder, a draft press release. Preston Ashford and Sloane Mercer are pleased to announce their engagement. The date on the document was 2 weeks from now, right after the Ashford Foundation Gala. He is planning to leave me. Margot heard her own voice as if from very far away. He is going to announce their engagement while I am still wearing his ring, while I am still carrying his child. It gets worse, Ruth said quietly. Look at the financial documents. Margot flipped to the next section. Transfer records, account statements, corporate filings. Several transactions referenced Prescott Maritime Holdings, her family's company. Deals that Preston had facilitated using his marriage to her, profits that he had siphoned into his own accounts while pretending to act on behalf of the Prescott family interests. He did not just betray me. Margot's voice was barely a whisper. He tried to rob my family. The folder contained more than evidence of an affair. It contained evidence of a crime. Margot closed the folder. She placed it on the kitchen table. She looked at Ruth with eyes that felt too dry, too tired, too old for her 31 years. What do I do now? Ruth reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Now you decide what kind of ending you want. You have the evidence. You have the truth. The question is what you want to do with it. Margot thought about Preston, about Sloane, about the gala in 2 weeks, about the press release that would destroy what was left of her dignity. She thought about her family, the family she had pushed away, the family that Preston had convinced her did not have her best interests at heart. I need to make a phone call. Margot stood up from the table. It is time I talked to my mother. That night after Preston had fallen asleep, Margot sat in the closet with the door closed. The overhead light was too bright. The hangers pressed against her back. Designer dresses she had bought to impress his colleagues hung around her like ghosts. She organized everything by color, then by season, then by sleeve length. She could not control her husband. She could not control the betrayal. But she could control this. She could make this one thing make sense. At 2:37 in the morning, she finally stopped. I deserved better than this. My family deserved better than this. The words felt true, solid, something she could hold on to in the chaos. She crawled into bed next to her husband, the man who had never loved her, the man who had used her as a stepping stone. Tomorrow she would call her mother. Tomorrow everything would change. Margot had not spoken to her parents in 3 months, not because of a fight, not because of any single dramatic moment, just a slow drift that Preston had engineered with surgical precision. It started small, a comment here and there about how her family was too involved in their marriage, how her mother called too often, how her father always seemed to have opinions about Preston's business decisions. "You need to set boundaries," Preston would say, with that concerned expression that she now recognized as manipulation. "They do not respect that you are your own person now. They do not respect us." So Margot had pulled back, skipped holiday dinners, cut phone calls short, canceled weekend visits. She told herself she was building an independent life, creating space for her marriage to grow. She did not realize she was building a prison. The phone felt heavy in her hand as she dialed her mother's number. 3 months of silence, 3 months of unanswered texts, and missed birthdays, and hollow excuses. Victoria Prescott answered on the first ring. Margot. Her mother's voice caught on the single word, "Sweetheart." "It has been so long." The tears came before Margot could stop them. Great heaving sobs that bent her double on the couch. "Mama." The childhood name slipped out. "I need help. I did not know who else to call. I know I have been absent. I know I have been terrible about staying in touch. I know—" "Hush now." Victoria's voice was steel wrapped in silk, the same voice that had soothed childhood nightmares and teenage heartbreaks. "Tell me everything. And when you are done, we are going to fix this together," Margot told her. About the ring, about the emails, about the affair that started before her marriage began, about the financial fraud, about the press release scheduled for 2 weeks from now. She talked until her throat was raw, until her eyes were swollen, until there was nothing left to say. Victoria was silent for a long moment when she finished. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, controlled, the voice of a woman who had navigated 4 decades of high society politics and corporate warfare. "Your father and I will be there tomorrow. Beckett is already booking flights. Do not let Preston know that anything has changed. We need time to prepare." Prepare for what? Victoria Prescott had raised 3 children. She had stood beside her husband through hostile takeovers and market crashes and family scandals that never made it to the papers. She knew how to wage war without ever raising her voice. "The Ashford Foundation Gala is in 12 days. She said the words like pieces on a chessboard. "I think it is time the Prescott family made an appearance." 3 days later, Margot sat in the study of her childhood home. The room smelled of leather and old books and her father's cologne, the same scent she remembered from childhood. When she would sneak in here to read while her parents hosted dinner parties. Harrison Prescott sat across from her in his leather chair. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His suit was impeccable. His expression was impossible to read. Her mother sat beside her on the settee, her hand held Margot's tightly. Her emerald eyes were bright with unshed tears. Beckett stood by the window. Her older brother had flown in from London, where he ran the European division of the family law firm. His jaw was tight, his hands were clasped behind his back. He had not stopped pacing since Margot finished explaining. "Let me make sure I understand." Harrison's voice was quiet, measured, the voice of a man who did not need to raise it to command attention. "This man targeted my daughter to access my company. He used my family name to facilitate deals that enriched him while cutting us out. He humiliated my daughter throughout their marriage, and now he plans to abandon my daughter and my grandchild to run off with his mistress." "Yes," Margot whispered, "all of it." Harrison was silent for a long moment. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked steadily. A car passed on the street outside. Somewhere in the house, a door closed. When Harrison spoke again, his voice had not changed, but something in his eyes had gone cold, like a switch being flipped. "The Ashford Foundation Gala is in 9 days," He stood up from his chair. I think it is time we reminded society who the Prescotts are. What are you planning? Margot asked. Harrison looked at his wife. Something passed between them. Decades of partnership, of understanding, of shared strategy. We are not planning anything dramatic, Victoria said. The Prescotts do not make scenes. We simply arrive. We simply exist. The rest takes care of itself, and the financial evidence. Beckett spoke for the first time. The fraud Preston committed. Already being compiled, Harrison replied, discreetly. Our forensic accountants are documenting everything. When the time is right, the Ashford Foundation Board will receive a very detailed report about their golden boy. Margot looked at her family. The family Preston had convinced her did not have her best interests at heart. The family she had pushed away for 3 years. They had dropped everything to come to her. They had not said, "I told you so." They had not criticized her choices. They had simply circled around her like a wall. "I am sorry." Her voice cracked. "I pushed you all away. I believed his lies. You have nothing to apologize for." Victoria cut her off. "He manipulated you. He isolated you. That is what predators do. They separate you from the people who love you because those people might see the truth." "What if this does not work?" Margot asked. "What if he still wins?" Beckett finally stopped pacing. He walked over to his sister and knelt down in front of her. "He has already lost," Beckett said. "He just does not know it yet." Preston had done more than break her heart. He had systematically dismantled her support system. He had convinced her that her family was the enemy. He had made her believe that she was alone. But she was not alone. She had never been alone. The baby kicked hard against Margot's ribs. A reminder. A promise. She was a Prescott, and Prescotts did not lose. The next 9 days passed in a blur of preparation. Margot moved back into her childhood home. She told Preston she needed to rest, that the pregnancy was taking a toll, that her doctor recommended she stay somewhere with more support. He did not argue. He seemed almost relieved. "Of course, sweetheart." He kissed her forehead with lips that felt like ice. "Take all the time you need. I will be here when you are ready to come home." She wondered if Sloane moved into their house the night she left. She wondered if they slept in the bed Margot had shared with Preston's for 3 years. She decided she did not care. Beckett spent his days on the phone with lawyers, building a case, documenting every fraudulent transaction, every betrayed confidence, every lie Preston had told. The Ashford Foundation Board received an anonymous packet of documents 4 days before the gala. Douglas Ashford called an emergency meeting. Preston was summoned to explain discrepancies in the financial records. He came home that night and called Margot in a rage. "Someone is trying to destroy me." His voice shook with fury. "Someone sent documents to my father. Lies about my business dealings. I need you to tell them it is not true." Margot held the phone away from her ear. Her mother sat beside her on the bed. Victoria's face was perfectly calm. "What kind of documents?" Margot asked innocently. "Financial records? Transactions? Things that have been completely misrepresented." Preston was pacing. She could hear his footsteps through the phone. "Margot, this is serious. If the board believes these accusations..." "What accusations exactly?" A long pause. "It does not matter." Preston's voice changed, softened, became the concerned husband act she knew so well. "You should not worry about this. Focus on the baby. Focus on resting. I will handle everything." "Of course," Margot said. "I trust you." She hung up the phone. Victoria raised one perfectly arched eyebrow. "He has no idea," Margot said. "He thinks this is coming from a competitor. He does not suspect me at all." "Of course not." Victoria smoothed the blanket over Margot's legs. In his mind, you are still the naive girl he manipulated at a charity auction. He cannot imagine you having the strength to fight back. Did I? Margot asked quietly. Have the strength? Or did I just get lucky that you were here to help me? Victoria took her daughter's face in her hands. Her skin smelled of jasmine. Her fingers were cool and soft. Strength is not about doing everything alone, Victoria said. Strength is knowing when to ask for help. Strength is surviving what he did to you for 3 years without breaking. Strength is carrying that baby through all of this and still fighting for a better future. She kissed Margot's forehead. You are the strongest woman I know. You just forgot for a little while. The morning of the gala, Margot woke to find a package at the foot of her bed. A vintage Chanel gown in midnight blue. The silk shimmered like water in the morning light. It had been altered to accommodate her pregnancy. The empire waist fell gracefully over her belly. The structured bodice supported her aching back. A note was tucked inside the box. Her mother's handwriting. You are a Prescott. Tonight we remind them what that means. Margot ran her fingers over the fabric. So soft, so expensive, so completely different from the woman she had become during her marriage to Preston. That woman wore what Preston liked. Beige and black and muted colors that did not draw attention. That woman dimmed her light so he could shine brighter. Tonight she would remember who she was. At 6:30, the hair and makeup team arrived. Victoria had sent them, professional, discreet, the best in the city. They worked in silence as Margot reviewed the plan with Beckett over the phone one final time. We do not make a scene, he reminded her. Prescotts do not make scenes. We simply arrive. We simply exist. The rest takes care of itself. And the financial evidence. Already with the Ashford Foundation Board. Quietly. Douglas Ashford may be many things, but he is not a fool. He will not let his son destroy the family company with a fraud scandal. What about Sloane? Beckett's voice hardened. She will be dealt with. Her career in this city is over. I have made sure of that. I do not want revenge, Margot said. I just want to be free. That is exactly what you are going to get. At 7:45, Margot descended the stairs of her childhood home. Her family was waiting in the foyer. Harrison in his 3-piece suit, silver cufflinks that had belonged to his grandfather, a quiet authority that filled the room without effort. Victoria in emerald silk, her grandmother's pearls at her throat, a smile that could charm diplomats and devastate enemies in equal measure. Beckett in black tie, that dangerous smile that had made opposing counsel nervous in every courtroom, from New York to London. They turned as Margot reached the bottom step. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Victoria stepped forward. She took her daughter's hand. You look beautiful. Her voice was thick with emotion. Absolutely beautiful. Margot looked at herself in the foyer mirror, midnight blue silk, hair swept up in an elegant twist, her grandmother's pearls at her own throat, and beneath all of it, the unmistakable swell of pregnancy. She looked like herself. For the first time in years, she looked like Margot Prescott. Ready? Harrison asked. The baby kicked hard against her ribs. Ready. The night before the gala, Margot could not sleep. She walked through the halls of her childhood home, past bedrooms she had not entered in years, past photographs of herself at 5 and 10 and 18, a girl she barely recognized. The house was quiet. Her parents had gone to bed hours ago. Beckett was in the study making last-minute phone calls. Margot found herself standing outside the door to her old room. She had not slept here since she married Preston, Since she left this house, believing she was starting a wonderful new life, what a joke. She pushed open the door. The room was exactly as she had left it. Pale blue walls, white curtains, books stacked on every surface, posters from concerts she had attended in college. A different person had lived here, a person with hopes and dreams and no idea that the man she would marry would turn out to be a monster. Margot sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress creaked beneath her weight. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender. Her mother must have kept them fresh. Just in case, the clock on the nightstand read 3:17. In 18 hours, she would walk into the Ashford Foundation Gala. In 18 hours, she would face Preston and Sloane in front of 400 people. In 18 hours, her entire life would change. What if it does not work? The thought crept in like poison. What if they are right? What if I am crazy? What if I have blown everything out of proportion? She thought about Preston's voice on the phone. So certain. So confused by the accusations against him. What if I misread the emails? What if there is an explanation? What if I am destroying my marriage over nothing? The doubts circled like vultures. What if I just disappear? Take the baby somewhere he cannot find us. Start over. Let him have Sloane. Let him have everything. Just stop fighting. Margot pressed her palms against her eyes. Her breathing was ragged. Her heart was pounding. The pregnancy hormones, the stress, the fear, it was all too much. She reached for her phone, opened the browser, started to type. How to know if your husband is gaslighting you. She stared at the words, deleted them. Signs of a narcissist. Deleted. Am I the problem in my marriage? Her thumb hovered over the search button. She did not press it. Instead, she sat in the darkness. Alone. 8 months pregnant. Terrified. The hardest part is admitting I knew all along. She knew what Preston was. She had known for years. Maybe not the details, but the emptiness, the coldness, the way he looked through her instead of at her. She had just been too afraid to admit it. Her phone buzzed. A text message from Beckett. Cannot sleep either. Margot typed back. How did you know? Because I am sitting outside your door. Thought you might need company. She crossed the room and opened the door. Her brother was leaning against the wall. He had 2 cups of tea in his hands. Chamomile. He held one out to her. Mom's recipe. Extra honey, because I know you like it too sweet. Margot took the cup. The warmth seeped into her cold fingers. They walked together to the sitting room at the end of the hall. Settled into the old armchairs that had been there since they were children. For a while they just sat, drinking tea, watching the moon through the window. Are you scared? Beckett finally asked. Terrified. He nodded slowly. That makes sense. What you are doing tomorrow takes courage. It is okay to be afraid. What if I cannot do it? Margot's voice was barely a whisper. What if I see him and I freeze? What if I fall apart in front of everyone? Beckett set down his tea. He leaned forward and took both of his sister's hands in his. Then you fall apart, he said simply. And we will be there to catch you. That is what family is for. I pushed you away for so long. You are surviving. There is no shame in that. He squeezed her hands. But you are not alone anymore. Whatever happens tomorrow, you are not alone. You never were. The tears came then, quiet this time, gentle. Beckett did not try to stop them. He just held her hands and let her cry. When the tears finally stopped, the sky outside the window had begun to lighten. Pink and gold creeping over the horizon. A new day. Thank you, Margot said, for being here, for not giving up on me. Never. Beckett smiled. His eyes were tired but warm. Besides, someone has to teach my niece how to argue properly. Cannot leave that to the amateurs. Margot laughed. It came out rusty and strange, but it was real. The darkness before dawn felt like it would last forever. But she was not as alone as she believed. The Ashford Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. 400 guests filled the grand ballroom of the Metropolitan Hotel. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow light across the marble floors. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner. Champagne flowed from towers of etched glass. Preston stood near the entrance. He wore a custom tuxedo, black, perfectly fitted. His hair was slicked back. His smile was bright and false. Sloane stood beside him. Her red dress clung to every curve. Her lips were painted to match. The ring on her finger caught the light with every gesture. They were not touching. Not yet. But their body language screamed intention. Tonight was their night. Tonight, everything would change. The press release was scheduled for 9 o'clock, 1 hour away. Margot watched them through the window of the limousine. Her family surrounded her. Harrison to her left, Victoria to her right, Beckett across from her. "Are you ready?" Victoria asked. Margot took a deep breath. The silk of her gown rustled against her legs. Her grandmother's pearls were cool against her throat. Her daughter kicked once, twice, 3 times. Ready. The driver opened the door. Harrison stepped out first. Then Victoria. Then Beckett offered his hand to help Margot from the car. The flashbulbs started immediately. Photographers lined the red carpet. Society reporters clutched their phones. Everyone wanted to know why the Prescott family had arrived at an Ashford event. They had not attended in 5 years. Not since Margot's wedding, not since the alliance between the families had been sealed with vows and rings and champagne toasts. Tonight they had returned. The murmur started at the entrance and rippled through the ballroom like a stone dropped in still water. "Did you see who just arrived? Is that Harrison Prescott? And Victoria? And their son? Why are they here by—" The crowd parted as they walked through the door. Harrison and Victoria moved first, side by side. Their presence was a statement. They did not need to speak. They did not need to explain. They simply existed, and the room rearranged itself around them. Then came Margot, 8 months pregnant, glowing in midnight blue, walking with her brother's arm supporting her. She had never felt more visible in her life. The chandelier light caught the silk of her gown. Her pearls gleamed against her skin. Her chin was lifted. Her spine was straight. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "You are a Prescott. Tonight we remind them what that means." Preston saw her from across the room, the champagne glass in his hand tilted, just slightly, just enough for a drop to spill onto his polished shoe. His face cycled through emotions too fast to track. Surprise, confusion, fear, and Sloane. Sloane's face went white, then red, then carefully blank. The grand reveal she had been planning. The engagement announcement that would cement her victory. It all suddenly felt very complicated, because 400 witnesses now knew exactly who Margot was. They knew exactly whose family had built half this city. They knew exactly what it meant that the Prescotts had come tonight. Preston recovered first. He always did. He crossed the room toward them. His stride was confident. His smile was firmly in place. "Margot," his voice was warm, concerned, the perfect husband greeting his pregnant wife. "I did not expect your family to attend. This is a pleasant surprise, is it?" Margot kept her voice pleasant. "Light. You know how Daddy feels about charity events. He would not miss it. Harrison." Preston extended his hand to Margot's father. "Good to see you, sir. It has been too long." Harrison shook his hand briefly. His grip was firm. His expression revealed nothing. "Preston," the single word carried years of judgment. "We should talk soon. About some financial matters that have come to my attention." Preston's smile flickered. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Margot to see the fear beneath. Of course, he said. Anytime. My door is always open to family. Behind him, Sloane hovered, uncertain. Her grand entrance had been overshadowed. Her moment of triumph had been stolen. She tried to approach, tried to insert herself into the conversation. Mr. Ashford, she began. But Douglas Ashford had appeared at his son's elbow. His face was granite. His eyes were cold. Preston, Douglas said quietly. A word now. Preston's mask slipped. Just for a second. Then he recovered. Of course, father. If you will excuse me. He walked away with Douglas, their heads bent together, their voices too low to hear. Sloane stood alone in her red dress. The ring on her finger suddenly seemed very heavy. Margot watched her for a moment. This woman who had helped destroy her marriage. This woman who thought she had won. She felt nothing. No rage, no satisfaction, no triumph, just emptiness. And beneath the emptiness, something else. Something quiet. Something that felt almost like peace. Tonight was not about revenge. It was about reclamation. The Prescotts never made scenes. They simply changed the rules. And the rules had just changed. Douglas Ashford led his son to the terrace, away from the crowd, away from the cameras, away from the witnesses, but not far enough that Margot could not see them through the glass doors. Preston's body language shifted as they talked. His shoulders hunched. His hands gestured wildly. He was explaining, defending, losing. Douglas stood perfectly still. His face was stone. His arms were crossed. When Preston finally stopped talking, Douglas said something brief. Then he walked away, back into the ballroom, without looking back. Preston stayed on the terrace, alone, his reflection ghostly in the dark glass. Harrison Prescott approached Douglas near the bar. They shook hands. Their conversation was quiet, brief, devastating. Whatever was said made Douglas's jaw tighten, made his eyes close for just a moment, made him nod once in acknowledgement. The empire Preston built on lies collapsed in minutes. Margot felt a hand on her arm. Cammy had appeared beside her. "How are you holding up?" Cammy asked. Margot considered the question. Really considered it. "Better than I expected," she admitted. "I thought I would feel something. Satisfaction. Victory. But I just feel tired." "That makes sense." Cammy squeezed her arm. "You have been carrying this weight for months. It takes time for the relief to settle in." Preston came back inside. His face was pale. His smile was gone. He found Margot near the champagne fountain. "What did you do?" His voice was a hiss. "What did you tell them? I did not have to tell them anything." Margot kept her voice calm. "You left a paper trail. Financial fraud. Embezzlement. Using our marriage to steal from my family's company." She paused. "Did you really think no one would notice?" Preston grabbed her arm. His fingers dug into her skin. "You are doing this to hurt me," he said. "Because of Sloane. Because you are jealous. You are destroying our family because you cannot handle that I fell in love with someone else." Margot looked at his hand on her arm. Then she looked at his face. Something had changed in her. Something fundamental. Something permanent. The woman who had sat in the dark living room 3 weeks ago. The woman who had almost believed his gaslighting. That woman was gone. "I am not destroying anything," she said. Her voice was steady, clear. "You did that. I am just not cleaning up after you anymore." She pulled her arm free, and she walked away. She actually walked away from him. For years she would have stayed, would have tried to fix it, would have apologized for his behavior, would have made herself small to make him feel big. Not tonight. The terrace doors opened onto a small balcony overlooking the city. Margot needed air, needed space, needed a moment to breathe. The night was cool, stars scattered across the dark sky like diamonds on velvet. The city lights glittered below. She was not alone for long. Judith Ashford stepped onto the balcony, Preston's mother, Margot's mother-in-law for 3 years. She braced herself for attack, for defense of Preston, for blame. Instead, Judith's eyes were wet. I knew, Judith said quietly. I suspected for years. I told myself it was not my business, that you two would work it out, that my son was not, that he would not. She took Margot's hand. I failed you, as a mother-in-law, as a woman who should have protected another woman. I am sorry. The apology came from the last person she expected. Margot stared at her. This woman who had always been cold, distant, critical. Why are you telling me this now? Because I should have said it years ago. Judith's voice cracked. Because I watched my son treat you the way his father treated me. And I told myself it was different. That you were stronger. That you could handle it. She wiped her eyes with a handkerchief. I was wrong. I was a coward. And I am sorry. Margot did not know what to say, so she said nothing. Instead, she squeezed Judith's hand. Just once, just enough. Then she walked back into the ballroom. The gala continued around her. Champagne and laughter and glittering dresses. A world spinning on despite the earthquake that had just shattered her marriage. She found her family near the entrance. Harrison looked at her with quiet pride. Victoria wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Beckett stood guard at her side. Time to go home, Victoria said softly. Yes, Margot agreed. Time to go home. They walked out together. The Prescott family, united, unbroken. Behind them, Preston watched from across the room. His face was pale. His plans were ashes. Beside him, Sloane clutched her engagement ring. The ring that had started everything. The ring that meant nothing now. The press release never went out. The engagement was never announced. And the mistress who thought she had won discovered that she had only won a man who was never worth having. 3 weeks after the gala, the divorce papers were filed. The prenuptial agreement that Harrison Prescott had insisted on 3 years ago protected everything that mattered. Margot's inheritance, her shares in Prescott Maritime, her future. Preston had argued against that prenup. He had called it unromantic, a sign of distrust, a bad omen for their marriage. Now Margot understood why. The fraud investigation moved quickly once the evidence was in the hands of the right people. Preston was removed from the Ashford Foundation board, pending the outcome. His access to company accounts was frozen. His reputation in society was destroyed. Sloane disappeared from public life. The rumors said she had moved to California, or Paris, or somewhere far away from the mess she had helped create. Margot did not care where she went. She only cared that she was gone. The new apartment was smaller than the house Margot had shared with Preston, but it was hers. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall, every curtain and cushion and coffee cup. She had chosen everything herself. No one had told her what to buy. No one had criticized her taste. No one had made her feel small for wanting something beautiful. The nursery was almost finished. Pink walls, white curtains, the mobile from the old house hung above the crib, stars and moons casting shadows across the ceiling. She had kept only that one thing, that one piece of the life she was leaving behind, because she had bought it for her daughter, because it meant something beyond the marriage it had belonged to. Cammie brought lunch every Thursday, homemade soup and fresh bread and gossip about people Margot no longer cared about. Beckett stopped by every Saturday with legal updates and bad jokes and toys he had bought for his future niece. Her mother called every single day, sometimes twice, making up for lost time. Her father deposited an amount of money in her account that made her eyes water. The note attached said simply, "For my granddaughter," and for my daughter who finally remembered who she is. Margot stood in front of her bathroom mirror, 37 weeks pregnant, alone, starting over. The woman staring back at her looked different, not thinner or more beautiful or transformed in any obvious way. Just different. Something in the eyes, something in the set of the jaw, something that said, "I survived." She thought about the past 3 years, the loneliness, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of everything she had been. She thought about Preston, about the man she had believed him to be, about the monster he had turned out to be. She thought about Sloane, about the ring, about the emails that had shown her the truth. Sloane thought she won. The words from the news articles, the whispers at the gala, the narrative that everyone believed. Sloane thought she won. She thought taking my husband meant taking everything. But she did not take my daughter. She did not take my family. She did not take my future. She just took a man who was never really mine. And honestly, she can have him. The baby kicked hard against her ribs. One final reminder that she was not alone, that she had never been alone. That even in the darkest moments, there had been a tiny heart beating alongside hers. Margot smiled at herself in the mirror. A real smile. Not the forced grimace she had worn at the boutique. Not the social mask she had perfected during her marriage. A genuine smile that reached her eyes and softened her face and made her look almost young again. She placed both hands on her belly. "Let us go, little one," she whispered. "Mama has some rebuilding to do." The doorbell rang. Margot walked through her apartment, past the kitchen where she was learning to cook for herself again, past the living room where she had started reading books that Preston would have called a waste of time. She opened the door. Her mother stood on the threshold, arms full of shopping bags, face bright with barely contained excitement. "I know you said you did not need anything else." Victoria swept past her into the apartment. "But I saw this dress, and I thought of you. And these booties are so precious. And I may have bought every single book on new motherhood that the store had in stock." "Mama," Margot laughed. "You have to stop buying things." "Absolutely not." Victoria set the bags down and pulled her daughter into a hug. "That is what grandmothers do. We spoil. It is in the job description. She is not even here yet. Practice makes perfect." They unpacked the bags together. Tiny dresses and soft blankets and books about raising strong daughters. Victoria held up a onesie that said "Future CEO." "Too much?" Margot asked. "Never." Victoria grinned. "This baby is going to run the world someday. Might as well start her training early." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, folding clothes, organizing shelves, building a nursery for a baby who would arrive any day now. "Are you happy?" Victoria asked finally. Margot stopped folding. She considered the question carefully. "A month ago, I would have said no," she admitted. "A month ago, I was terrified, lost, broken, and now I am still scared." Margot looked around her small apartment, her new life. But it is a different kind of fear. Fear of the unknown instead of fear of the familiar. Does that make sense? Victoria nodded slowly. "When I found out I was pregnant with you, I was terrified," she said. "Your father and I had only been married a year. I did not know if I was ready. I did not know if I could be a good mother." "But you were," Margot said. "You are." Victoria's eyes glistened. "You are going to be wonderful." She pulled Margot into another hug. "This baby is so lucky to have you as her mother." 2 weeks later, at 3:47 in the morning, Margot's water broke. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Contractions and breathing exercises, and her mother's calm voice guiding her through every moment. Beckett waited in the lobby. Harrison paced the halls. Cammie brought coffee and magazines and kept everyone sane. At 11:15 in the morning, Eleanor Victoria Prescott came into the world. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, a full head of dark hair, and a cry that could shatter glass. Margot held her daughter for the first time, counted her fingers, counted her toes, marveled at this tiny, perfect person who had grown inside her through the worst year of her life. "Hi, baby," she whispered. I am your mama. I have been waiting to meet you for so long. Eleanor opened her eyes, dark blue like all newborns. She blinked up at Margot's face like she was trying to memorize every detail. I promise you something. Margot's voice cracked. I promise I will never let anyone make you feel small. I will never let anyone convince you that you are less than extraordinary. I will never let anyone take away who you are. The baby made a small sound. Not quite a cry, almost like agreement. You and me against the world, little one. Margot kissed her daughter's forehead. We are going to be just fine. The hospital room filled with family. Victoria crying happy tears in the corner. Harrison holding his granddaughter with trembling hands. Beckett taking enough photos to fill 100 albums. They were loud and messy and overwhelming and absolutely perfect. This was what family looked like. This was what love felt like. This was what Margot had almost given up for a man who had never deserved her. She thought about Preston, alone in his apartment, stripped of his position, abandoned by the woman he had betrayed his wife for. She did not wish him harm. She did not wish him anything at all. He simply no longer existed in her world. That night, after everyone had gone home, Margot sat in the hospital bed with her daughter sleeping against her chest. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors and the distant sounds of the hospital. She looked out the window at the city lights spread below like stars fallen to earth. A year ago, she had been invisible, a wife who did not matter, a woman whose husband was planning to leave her for someone else. Now she was a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was Margot Prescott. And she had never felt more herself. Eleanor stirred in her sleep, her tiny hand curled around Margot's finger. We made it, Margot whispered. Against all odds, through all the pain. We made it. The baby sighed contentedly. Outside the window, the sun began to rise, pink and gold spreading across the horizon like a promise. A new day, a new life, a new beginning. Victory did not feel like she expected. It felt better. It felt like freedom, like peace, like coming home after years of wandering in the dark. Sloane had thought she won, but Sloane had only taken a liar, a cheat, a man so broken that he could only see other people as stepping stones. Margot had taken back herself, and that was worth more than any ring could ever be. If stories like this speak to your soul, if you believe that women deserve to hear narratives of strength and resilience, then you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had a moment where you finally saw someone's true colors? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire future content. Share this video with a friend who needs to hear that it is never too late to start over. And if this story moves you, leave a like. It helps more women find these messages when they need them most. Now, settle in. Get comfortable. This is going to be an emotional journey. Let us begin. Disclaimer. Thank you for staying until the end. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to bring meaningful stories and valuable life lessons to our audience. Every character, every emotion, every twist was crafted with intention, to entertain, to inspire, and to remind you of your own strength. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support allows us to continue creating content that matters. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are stronger than you know.